Hi, so I wanted to do a quick tutorial on how to create a Zoom meeting. What you're going to do is make sure that you have signed up. If you have not signed up already, otherwise just press sign in. Once you press sign in, you can sign into your account, but I prefer to sign in with Google, so everything's just mainstream together. This kind of allows for other features like using Google Calendar with your Google account. So I choose this one, and I select the create account, the correct account. And here you'll see some meetings that I've already begun. So what we're going to do is go to schedule a new meeting. And here we can name it whatever we'd like. We will call this one practice. You can enter anything here. Your invitees will receive the topic of the meeting. Then you can select the date and the time that you want it to begin and the duration. If you have a free account, you may not be able to do longer than 45 minutes, depending on the settings of your account. Um, I like to select recurring meeting if this is one that I think I'm going to have again. So if I'm going to make one for students, then I'm going to click recurring meeting. That way I can just always use the same link for myself, okay? Now the recurrence, I never know when I'm going to meet sometimes with particular people, so instead I just like to put no fixed time and then it changes the problem of it saying, "Oh, this meeting was scheduled for this day." Then you can choose between having the meeting ID generated automatically or just always using the same personal meeting ID. The benefit of this is that it's always the same link for your Zoom as for your Zoom meeting, and people can even memorize that code. But for me, if people are using a link, I don't think it really matters. Here you can put a passcode. You could also change the passcode to something a little bit easier. Um, it doesn't matter what it is. Here, if you want a waiting room, I highly suggest waiting room if you're using Zoom because it just helps you know who's coming into the room. If you're having a very large meeting, it could be a little bit tiresome, but at the same time, it keeps you safe because other people might come in to your meeting that don't belong there. And this way you can kind of figure out who's who and you pretty much know who to expect. So, waiting room is highly encouraged. And here is we're going to have the video on for the host. For the participants, we can leave them off. Or you can press on. I like to give my participants the option. For the audio, I allow people to call into the telephone and use the computer audio. It's just a natural setting there. This one is very important. Enable join before host. So if I have not begun the meeting and some of the people I invited are ready to go, they'll be able to come inside the meeting without me there. If you're doing something with kids, you're not going to want to go there. So if this is just like an adult meeting, maybe you and another person, this might be a nice feature. Mute participants upon entry. This is a good one because it just makes everything a lot smoother and people will unmute themselves as soon as they're ready to talk. This one is only authenticated users can join, so somebody who has an account. This one is if you want to pre-assign the breakout rooms. But in this one, you're going to need to, when you go to create rooms, you'll have to add the room and the participants. So if you're not sure exactly who will be in the room yet, this might be a little bit hard to do. Here it says record the meeting automatically. I don't always like it recorded, but if you do, I would suggest to click on that one. Here you can have an alternative host. Maybe another person can help you with people in the waiting room or in the chat room, or just giving other people's turning other people's mics on or off as needed, especially if they accidentally turned on their mic while you're presenting. And here is if you're going to interpret, and you'll have somebody who will be the interpreter, and they'll select the language and it will come up for them. I have not tried this feature yet though. That's pretty much the basics of it. Now, my favorite way to keep my Zoom sessions organized is to use Google Calendar. Now, when I use Google Calendar, it reminds me when my next meeting is. So I'm going to press Google Calendar. Select my account. I'm allowing Zoom and Google Calendar to speak. And now I can schedule this. So here I'll start to add. Pay attention to what happens over here on this side. I'll add some people, and all of a sudden it creates a link for people to use Google Meet. This could be confusing because then people will join this room thinking that the meeting is there and ignore the rest of it. So as soon as you're done inviting all of your guests, make sure you press the X. Okay, the next thing will be to set the date and the time. So let's make this one 10:45, let's say next week. And does not repeat. I could change that and do weekly on Friday. And down here, I can make a notification. I can add another one if I want to do one the day before. And here will be the Zoom link and the meeting ID. Sometimes it's unnecessary. Sometimes I like to take it out. But I never know if somebody's going to tap in on the mobile device, so I just kind of leave it there. You can also add any notes or attach an agenda here and have all of these features of editing whatever you have here. And the last thing here is to give guests permissions to modify your event. I would suggest not to unless it's somebody that you trust. You can have them invite others and you can have them see your guest list. So that's up to you. Okay, so we're going to press save. Here, would I like to send my guests an email about this event that I've created? I can send it to them so they are aware of it. Or maybe I've already told them and I don't want to bombard their email. It'll just show up on their Google Calendar. Or maybe I can just dismiss it and stop and continue editing anything that I didn't fix correctly here. I'm going to press save and I'm going to say don't send. So now you'll see that for Friday, I have practice already going there. Now I like this because then I know exactly when my next meeting is and I can use Google Calendar to figure out what's happening. If I get invited, then I'll look at it and there'll be an option to press yes or no if I'm attending. It also sends me notifications and that just helps me stay more organized. So I really, really like that one. Okay, that's some of the basics of Google Calendar and Zoom.